This is episode 96 of the After Gambling Podcast. And in this episode, we are going to talk about reflection. Hey there, and welcome back to the After Gambling Podcast. You know me, my name is Jamie, and I am glad to have you here with me today as we come to the end of the year. As I'm releasing this is December 30th of 2022, and the end of the year always brings about reflection back on the last year. I know I've talked about this a lot on the podcast about how I didn't always like reflections, year-end reflections. And this year is an interesting year, and I want to talk about that. But first, I want to share a poem about reflection. And it's interesting, this poem came on my radar, and it's amazing how our brains connect dots, and all of a sudden we remember things from our past. This was a poem that I believe was on the wall of my father's coaching office. He was a football and wrestling coach, and there was always motivational stuff. And we also had this book, I forget what it was called, but it was just full of motivational poems or inspirational poems, and I always liked to look at that as a kid. But there was this one that stood out, and I believe it was on the wall, and it's called The Man in the Glass. So it starts, when you get what you want in your struggle for self and the world makes you king for a day, then go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't a man's father, mother, or wife whose judgment upon him must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in life is the man staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in your glass is your friend. You can fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but the final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. And it's by Peter Dale Wimbrough Sr. It's quite a name. But yeah, the poem's called The Man in the Glass if you want to look it up. But anyways, this kind of, as I said, came on my radar. I was having this brilliant thought. I often have these brilliant thoughts. You're probably the same. You have these just once in a lifetime thoughts where you're like, wow, I wonder if anybody's ever thought of that. And my thought this past week, and I'm struggling to remember what triggered it, was this concept that it doesn't matter how much other people think we're doing well. Ultimately, the only person, the judge and jury in our minds is ourselves, because we can get success in life from monetary success or acclaims from other people, awards, recognition, all of those things. And yet, if we don't feel like we did our best, that we cheated the system in somehow, or if we know that we had more to give, and I think that's really the biggest one that I run into so often is when I know I have more to give, it just feels like uncomfortable almost to accept that recognition, right? And so, yeah, it's funny, obviously, on the heels of this, you can see where this is going. I was thinking how brilliant this idea was. I wonder if anyone's ever thought of the idea that it really comes down to it's only ourself that is truly that most important judge, the most important person, as the poem says, to have as your friend. Because otherwise, so many times we can get into these headspaces where nothing else matters. And so I know quickly finished thinking how brilliant I was, and then I was reflecting back on this poem. I was like, wait a second, that poem, The Man in the Glass, what was that about? And I pulled it out. And obviously you're probably thinking of all sorts of other things. Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. And there are countless examples from poetry and music and just life stories, fables, tales that we have about this concept. So it's kind of hilarious to me that I thought, oh gosh, I have this brilliant thought, Jamie. Way to go. Make sure we write up something on this. But the important thing is not that it's brilliant or unique. And I think actually the important thing is that it's not unique at all. It's something we all feel and we all have gone through. And I think having these poems, these stories, these songs to reflect on really help us to kind of come back to center and realize that it is us just doing our best is really one of the most important metrics. And ultimately, I think this is at the heart of why we feel so much internal angst and struggle when we're gambling or anything else in life, where we're putting on the one front, where we have kind of a mask that we put on and face the world with and try to present to the world, while knowing the reality is a different thing all in and of itself. We can fool the world, as it says in the poem. I mean, you can get pats on the back and praise and accolades from the world. But when you look in the mirror and you know that you had more to give, that you could have done more, or that you cheated a system, you cut a corner, and maybe the client didn't realize it. Maybe they're happy with the final product, but you know that you could have done something a little bit better, or that you should have done something better, or maybe they think that you did something better. And that, I think, just eats at us. And that's why, as I'm looking back on this year, it's interesting because I reflect back on a year that was, by all counts, more successful than any other business year that I've had to date. And so it's really cool. And yet I look at certain projects and I know that I did a really good job and the client was really happy with them, but I'm thinking, man, I was a little bit distracted. I was struggling. There were some projects I really struggled with. And that's true of all projects. We struggle and we get through them, but it's like, man, what if I would have blocked out this other distraction I had at that time? Or what if I would have just spent a couple more hours preparing for that project, or doing a little bit more research into how I could solve a specific problem more efficiently? And so we're always in this constant tug of war, I think, with ourselves and trying to pull out the best of ourselves. And ultimately, I think this is one of the things that make us humans elite. I mean, we are really at the top of the food chain for a lot of reasons. And I think this inner drive that, I don't know what it is, but we all seem to feel that no matter what we do, it's almost not good enough. And I think the world now, it's easy to just kind of compound this. And we see this exponentially coming out as you have Instagram, you have all these different platforms where you can see what your other friends are doing. My wife and I were talking about this at dinner last night. It's so easy to quickly see other people that were at the same event, that you have some that you know, some that you don't know. And it's like, we went to an event this last week and we bought kind of the cheap tickets. And in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe we should pay a little bit more. But the cheap tickets were really actually quite good tickets. And we had just been on the back of Christmas. And so you can start to convince yourself, oh, I'm not doing enough. And then you compare yourself to others and start to judge yourself. But ultimately, it comes back to that, is the man in your glass your friend? And so in that example, I'm completely at peace knowing that I bought exactly the tickets I wanted to buy, that I felt were appropriate for our family. And we enjoyed it. We had a great time. Like, there's no need to feel any type of negativity from that event or any event. But this is just one of those concepts that I think it's really interesting. And I wanted to explore it more because there's kind of two sides of this. We have kind of the aspirational, it's always aspiring for more, wanting more, wanting more. And that's something I've really gotten away from personally over the last probably 5 to 10 years. It was something in my 20s, like most people, like we want to strive and we want to have the cars and the houses and all these fancy luxuries. And then as we get older, we start to realize some of those things it's nice to have. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have nice things. I have quite a few nice things that I enjoy, but they don't define me, and I don't necessarily chase them anymore. Or I'm better at making trade-offs and understanding what that trade-off is and when to make those trade-offs, and see it. And that man in the glass will look and say, hey, that was a good decision. Way to go. Like you balance that out right. And other times where it's not the right decision. And so I can pull back and go a different path. But in doing that, the one thing that's kind of interesting is this past year, one thing I accomplished was I paid off my car. I bought a car a few years ago, and this year I was in a place where financially I could just pay it off and be done with it. And that was one of the last kind of big monthly payments that was on my desk, essentially, or my responsibility to get done. We're in a great spot, and that was just one of those last little hanging things. And so I've spent the last 20 years paying off all these debts that I've accrued or brought on. I mean, this one was obviously not a gambling debt, but it's buying a car, and I didn't have the cash to just buy it outright, so we had to finance it. And I paid that off. And it was an interesting thing that happened, that as the weight that I felt probably for those 20 years, this last couple months has been really a struggle with work, just to stay focused. I think it is. A lot of times the work was just a way for me to kind of escape and put my head down and move closer towards that goal of just paying off all these things. And it was such just kind of a grind especially over the last 10 to 15 years, poker induced, gambling induced, and then trying to dig myself out of that when I got to the place where I didn't have that pressure anymore, I wasn't sure how I'd feel. And honestly, it was a mix of ease and enjoyment and also dread, which was kind of interesting. Because I got to, like I said, I lost some motivation is probably the best way to say it. I just was struggling to stay focused, and I didn't have bills that were coming due that I absolutely had to finish a project as fast as possible so I could get something paid and move on to the next thing. And so I kind of had a breathing room is probably the best way to say it. And I'm sure many of you are probably either have gone through this or hoping to go through this. And I'm sharing this experience, hopefully, because it'll shed some light on the experience that, yes, definitely, by all means, I highly advocate for getting all your debts paid off, getting out of debt. But just understand that when you get to that point, you're probably going to feel some of these things that I've been feeling and trying to sort through. And as I always say, I come here to share it, so hopefully it'll help you. But there was this uncomfortable comfort is probably the best way I can describe it. On one hand, I didn't have these things that were kind of weighing me down, and so I was uplifted. But then I also realized that there's value in those things because they can help me to strive and achieve. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing that I've realized in the last 2 months is that it comes down to me, that man in the glass. Having those external forces that were pushing me in the past to move me towards paying off my debts helped me and kind of encouraged me, gently nudged me in the right direction to get those things done. But when they were gone and I lost that nudge, the thing I realized was even when that was gone, now all of a sudden it was truly on me. And that man in the glass wasn't loving the effort I was putting into some of my work and wasn't loving the effort I was putting into the podcast. And that's when I finished the payments was when I started back up with the podcast. And it was a really nice thing because I felt like, oh, I finally have some breathing room. But then I started getting into the podcast, and I apologize, I haven't done one in the last couple of weeks, mainly because I just didn't want to. And I didn't want to do a short form podcast. I wanted to do something longer. And I had all these thoughts in my head and kind of, I knew I could do better, and I know I can continue to do better. And so I wanted to write down some thoughts or really kind of make sure I had something on my mind, something to say before I recorded the next one. And then ironically, I got a couple of messages from people that said, hey, I've listened to the recent ones. I really like them. They really fit in time-wise. And so that kind of pushed me back to thinking, okay, get out of your own head. Just do what you can do. Do the best of your ability. Today, I can do hopefully a good job of explaining this idea that's on my head about this person in the glass. And ultimately, using that as a framework for me as I enter next year, 2023. And it's something I am focused on. How can I be better at this thing? How can I really be proud of the work that I do? How can I become a professional in all aspects of life? And that's fatherhood. That's being a husband. That's being a good dog owner. It's being a good business owner. It's being better at graphic design and some of the design work I do and development work I do for websites. And it's better doing the podcasting stuff. There are plenty of things that I can kind of continue to improve that deep down I know I have the ability to. I know I also have the time. And so that's really one of the biggest things is for me, it's going to be managing my time in a better way, making sure that I'm investing my time in things that I want to invest in, that I want to become better at. And that's really the best use of my time are things like family and things like improving my skills or doing things that help me optimize my outputs on the podcast or in my work. And I know in doing those things, now it's not going to be about doing them for a paycheck. And I guess that's really what I'm trying to say here is what I realized was doing things for a paycheck can be helpful. It was helpful for me for a long time. But once that need for the paycheck to make and meet a current commitment, a current liability, a current expense, once that was gone, the reality was I still needed to do it for me. I need to do good work for me. I need to do work that I'm proud of for me. And I think ultimately this is moving up the hierarchy, and this is a higher, just a higher reward. the money is nice, but being able to look the person in the glass and in the mirror and say, hey, I'm proud of you. You did a good job. That's really what drives me. And ultimately, that's the only thing that matters, because I've gotten this last year, like I said, was an example of a year where I was very successful. People were very happy with the projects. And on each one, and I think this is the case no matter the type of work you do, you look and you say, man, I wish we could have done a little bit more. And some of it is the scope wasn't there. I did design work and the scope was to do at a certain level and the payment reflected that. And so when that's done, it's done. And I would have to charge more. Like I'd have to break through some of that fear and charge more. And the people would have to invest more in order to get to some of these higher levels. But ultimately, for me, just knowing that I'm doing my best work at all times is really, I think, what matters. Being able to look the person in the glass and be friendly with it. And I think that's where we all want to get. I think it's a dangerous path when we get away from that, when we get away from being the best version of ourselves, the best friend that we can be, because we know it. And we can fool a lot of people. And I think I'll probably wind this one down by highlighting the fact that we gamblers, especially, are great at fooling the outside world. It's always a joke in GA rooms that around some of the biggest liars in the world. And yet we finally get to a place where we're being honest with each other. And I really think that ability to lie is really something that we have it. And it works for us to get more money to gamble. But ultimately, it just leads to the big fall in the end, because we know that the lies just aren't true. And it's not who we want to be. But as it says in the poem, the final reward will be heartache and tears if we've cheated the man in the glass. So as you head into 2023, I just hope you, like me, look in the glass and we're empathetic and understanding of that person in the glass. And we know that we're trying our best. But then that second part is making sure that we're trying our best, that we're allocating our time to the things that matter most, because not everything matters equally. And I can get caught up in Twitter, and I can get caught up in LinkedIn and likes, and I can get caught up in work and invoicing and all these other things. And those are good. And I need to be proficient in those and good at those and do those to the best of my ability. But there's so much more that matters. And ultimately, understanding and kind of coming to peace with the things that matter to me in my life, and the things that matter to you in your life, and satisfy that reflection that's coming back from the glass. So hopefully this is a good message for you to wrap up your 2022. I hope you also had a great year. The fact that you're listening to this tells me that you're trying to improve, right? So how can you not have a good year? Yeah, it must have been a good year for you. So I'm encouraged by all of the responses that I get. I appreciate all those responses. And something that I want to do more of as I go into 2023 is to share some of the success stories from listeners. And we obviously do those through interviews, but also some of the emails. And so as I get emails, I'm going to ask for permission to read some. And this is one that I got recently, and I want to share with everyone. It says, "Hi, Jamie. After 15 years of fighting my internal gambling monster, who they have named Rita, if you remember from the Starting a War episode, I am now 30 days without gambling. To the outsider, that doesn't sound like much, but to me, it is huge. I have been through 2 paydays and have had opportunities to gamble that I didn't take, so it's a big deal to me. One night after leaving the casino with absolutely nothing and having gambled tens of thousands of dollars online in just a few months, in a mental state where I was seeking how I could best commit suicide, I found your podcast. I don't remember which episode I found, but since that night, I have gone back to episode 1 and listened to your podcast on a regular basis. Your podcast has changed my life. I've also read many books on stopping gambling and slaying the gambling monster in me, and all of it helps. I know from one of your podcasts that I am at a potential pitfall, 30 days, but I have no desire to gamble, and when Rita comes to my consciousness, I quickly slay her. I also gave my husband all my credit cards and complete control of my accounts. That helped us both immensely. When I was gambling, I did everything I could to keep my husband from seeing my accounts. And now I'm delighted for him to have control and to share everything with him. My marriage was just about over. I was seriously depressed, making terrible decisions at work, and constantly anxious. In just these 30 days, I feel so much more contentment. My husband and I are sharing with each other again, and your podcasts are keeping me busy and engaged. Thank you for all that you do, and please continue to share the link to your podcast everywhere and often. You literally changed my life. That is a fantastic email to get. And ultimately, this is why I always encourage everyone to go on and post on Reddit, start your own podcast, do all of these things, because paying it forward is really the highest, I think, contribution we can make when we make it through things, because we can help other people, and ultimately it helps everyone. I mean, getting emails like this helps my day, makes my day brighter, and goes a long way to when I look at the reflection in the glass, just being happy and satisfied with what I see. So thank you for sharing that. If you want to send in a response or kind of an update on how you're doing, you can shoot that to me, jamie@aftergambling.com. Just let me know that you'd like me to read it on a future episode, and I'll get some of those on air to celebrate everybody's successes, because it really is something that I always say the person on day one contributes just as much to a meeting or to a group as the person on day, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, and just something that really want to highlight more success stories. So please send those in. And then finally, 2023 is no different. This is a bridge to getting you the help that you so rightly deserve. So please reach out, especially to the therapist. We all would benefit from having regular therapy. So if that's possible, I definitely encourage you to connect with a therapist. Check in with them. It doesn't have to just be about gambling, just about life, work, relationships, all of that stuff. A therapist will go a long way to helping just to make your life better. And the person that is in the glass, you're going to be happier with them, and you're going to understand them better and be able to kind of reason with them better and ultimately get better results for them. And if you need some financial help going into the next year, work with somebody, get a professional, a financial planner, get somebody on your side that will help guide you through the finances, whether they look like a mess like mine did, or if they're in good shape. It doesn't matter. Get somebody that you can just outsource that to. Again, less stress, more time to just enjoy your life. So please reach out to professionals. The information I share is just for informational purposes only. And then finally, music for the show is Something Elated by Broke for Free and is licensed under the Creative Commons license. Thanks again for everything. Happy 2022, on to 2023. Look forward to sharing successes with you along the way as we go through another wonderful year ahead. See y'all.